Hey everyone, how are you doing? Darren Connell here. Welcome to my studio. Welcome to my dark studio. I've just noticed I haven't put my lights on my shelves. So forgive all the black behind me. And I'm wearing a black hoodie too, so everything is black here. And there's a delay on my camera. Ugh, why is there a delay? I bet my computer is backing up. I bet it is. Yep. Okay, computer was backing up. I have just paused it. This should... Nope, still delay. Bop, 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 bop. Come on. Boop, 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 boop. Okay, we're back in time now. Sorry, my computer auto backs up sometimes. Oh, it's still in a delay. That's so annoying. There's nothing else running, I don't think. Let me close those browsers down. I bet it's going to be one of those things that it's going to be running behind and being stupid because I'm talking and then the preview doesn't happen for a bit and then it's all speeded up and it's weird. It's now in time. I was about to say, I bet it's one of those things where it just stays out of sync the entire time now because I would have to stop it and record a new one, which I could do. It is slightly weird. Hopefully it's working well enough that you can see, and to be honest, once I point the camera down and we're painting, you won't really know anyway. So, fingers crossed that this works well enough because I frankly can't be arsed starting it again. Okay, welcome to part 5 of... What are we doing? Alexander the Great. Couldn't remember his name. I was about to say the man with no name. No. Doing 52 videos of that, I sort of etched that phrase into my head now. Every time I go to say, welcome to part thing, my brain goes, the man with no name. No, we've done that one. So, Alexander the Great. Okay. I'll bring the camera in and we will get moving. So, move the stuff out the way, move my board in. Oh, itchy nose. Let's bring this in about there, maybe? Let's have a go. I'll switch cameras and put me straight in the corner. Hello, here I am down here. Right, okay. So I move things like the flow enhancer and the water out of the way and over there. Kitchen roll over there. Let's put the thing over there for now, and I'll bring that in when I'm mixing paint so you can see what I'm doing. Okay, that is about right. That's close enough. It's a little bit in shadow because of where the light is. I can bring that light, the arm of the light, more towards me and tilt the camera up. That's better. That's more in light there. So, what have we done? We've done all the metal parts. We've done all the metal around here. We've done the metal clasps. We've done the metal around here. We've done the shading and the detailing and the weathering, and we've done all that. We've done layers on this. We've done grey, and we've done brown, and we've done the chrome polishing stuff. And we painted the... God, I've got to be careful not to hit things with his arms. We painted these leather straps and this big leather belt dark brown. They were actually black and they looked terrible. Oh, I forgot to do those ones between videos. Okay, well, we can do those now. So we've done those. So what I'm going to do is go onto this dark brown leather, and to be honest, it looks good enough as it is, but I just want to add a little bit of something to it, just to make it not quite so singular coloured. Okay, let me find my... That's grey, don't want grey. Black brown, there you go. Which is the colour that we used for this, which is sort of umber. It's close enough. Let me mix this up. Now that sort of clacking sound that you can hear in here as I shake it, when I used to use these paints, I would basically, whoops, don't throw the things, I would open the paint, I'd get what I needed, put it on the palette, work from it, but I'd leave this open and have a bunch of paint open on my desk and sort of dip between them, and it was a very fast way of working for me. With these ones, they've got small little nozzles and you squirt out a couple of drops and you use what you use. It's very slow. The paints will probably last longer because of it. It is a very slow way of working for me, because I used to just go blah 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 blah, and yes, it was messy and horrible and I'd contaminate the paint, but I would work around it and it was fine. But these ones have the little nozzles, and what I found out by researching was that if you just leave it, then the paints can be not as well mixed up as you want them to be. So you can actually buy little pots, I've got one somewhere, of metal ball bearings. There you go, you can see them in there. And you put one or two of those inside there, and they have to be ones that won't rust. And you put them inside, and when you shake the thing, it's like a spray can, like a rattle can, for what I use for my varnish, or if you're painting a car or whatever. And when you shake it and you hear that little thing inside it, that's essentially a metal ball going up and down, mixing the paint up. So what you do is take the lid off this, you pop the main lid off, put ball bearings in, and that lets you mix up the paint properly. So I'm just going to put a couple of drops of this. It's actually quite gloopy, this one. I think some of these ones that I've bought are older than some others, so sometimes they come out really watery and sometimes they come out quite thick, as if they're like my old paints but starting to age. Now I don't know if it's that, or if it's just that the paints are thicker and thinner, some of them, or if they've just been mixed differently. I don't know. Alright, so I've just got that couple of drops of that stuff. Just put some water on, where are we? In there. I want it to be a little bit thin. I don't want it to be too thin, because I'd like to not have to do a second layer on this one. Because I'm just doing these awkwardly positioned belts down here. Now if I can figure out where the... Okay, so that is where the camera is. Now do I need to move the focus up? Oh, let me check this. Because the camera is much lower than it used to be. So camera settings, camera 2. Come on, camera 2, there you go. And focus. Okay, so focus. Okay, that's about right. So it's still the same place. The focus is still good enough where it was. So I'm about there. I've got to hold it quite far away. I've got to remember that. So I will lean in with my head. Hopefully that's still in shot. And just start painting these last two straps. Now, when these last two straps are done, because I'd forgotten about these, to be honest, what I was going to go on with straight away, which we will do once I've done these, was just adding a bit of leather detailing to all of the leather that we posted that we painted, and the stuff that we done was good enough as it was, and to be honest, the dark brown leather will work as dark leather, and it does work as dark leather. But you know me by now, just to stop it being so awkward to get to. Right, there you go. Just to stop it being a little bit plain, maybe. Oh man, this is impossible. Trying to work around the arm, but also not hitting the camera at the same time. So I'm just going to get a lighter brown colour. Now, previously I would use chocolate brown and leather brown. I honestly can't remember because I'm still at the stage of getting used to these paints and figuring out which ones are which. I can't remember which Vallejo ones stand in for chocolate brown and leather brown. So we will. Sorry, I do not know if that was in a shot. I do not know if I was sticking my head under the camera there. I apologise if I was. We will. What was I saying? Have a look at the paints that we've got, and we will see which ones will work to do the sort of detailing that we would have done using chocolate brown and leather brown. Almost done on these now. Are we still working? I hope so. 11 minutes recording, the sound is on. There's a little bit of a delay, which is frustrating, but hopefully it doesn't really matter now that we're actually painting. Because it doesn't matter if my lips are not in sync with the volume, because, well, it doesn't matter because we're painting. Okay, done that bit, done that bit, done that bit, done that bit. Okay, I think I have done all of these now. It's easy to miss bits and forget that you're going to go back for a bit and then you forgot it. Especially when it's a lot of turning something around and repositioning and trying to get it from a different angle. It's easy to miss a bit. That'll do. Right. So don't let me touch those until they're dry. So everything was painted. There's one little bit that I just noticed I could do an extra layer on. Sorry, forgive me 1 second. Just a little tiny bit between some clasps, and I'm like, oh, that could do with another coat. There you go. Okay, done. Done, 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 done. So, I think all of that is pretty much done. Let's plonk him there in the middle of the shot. Clean this brush and have a look at the browns. Now, I don't have to do too much here. Like I said, it does kind of look perfectly fine for a statue of this scale. For, oh, excuse me. For the sort of, you know, just picking out detail type paint job that we're doing. It's not a complete start to finish you know, remodel or anything. That is good enough. It looks great. It's quite bold. All the metal looks brilliant, but I just want to add something. So I'm actually looking at what browns I have, because honestly I've sort of forgotten. I still don't know them all by name yet, and I'm still, each time I pick one up I'm going, I wonder if this will do, I wonder if this will do. Whereas previously I knew what the colours were and I knew what I would go to, because I've had 12 years of using them and going, right, what I'm going to do this is I'm going to do some chocolate brown, put a layer, then I'm going to get some leather brown and put that on top and mix them together, and I knew what I would do. Just because I knew the colours and I knew how I'd go about it, but this is, I do not know these colours at all. Okay. So this is mahogany brown. See, none of them really have the chocolatiness of the chocolate brown that I used to use. And some of these will work. I mean, that flat earth might work for the lighter bits. That's a bit red, but I think maybe that mixed with some of the flat earth, maybe. Maybe some of that whole red mixed with some of either the flat earth or the mahogany brown, and done thinly, either as thin dry brushing or a thin wash, might work okay. So let's, hang on, I didn't shake it up, did I? Darren. Okay, shake, 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 shake. Sorry, while I'm shaking, I'm looking at my phone because a thing just came through and I'm like, hang on, is this an important thing or is this something I can ignore? No, that's something I can ignore, that's fine. Okay, so let's get this colour out. And we'll see. See, funnily enough, this, what did I say this was? Hull red. Looks quite close to the colour of, you know, all of these leather, the bits that go around the framing of the armour. And I was going to repaint those, touch them up to neaten them off, and bits where maybe some of the greys from the metal work had gone onto them, and I just wanted to make them a bit neater because some of them weren't painted that good to start with. This actually looks like quite a good match for that, so this could turn out to be sort of the colour that I need to do that anyway. And when I do that, I'll probably just do that off camera because that's quite a boring, doesn't really need to be done that. You know, there's no lessons there. I'm just painting around lines. It's literally the most boring thing you could think of doing. But it'll be interesting to at least know that we've got the right colour. Okay, so I'm dropping some flow enhancer into this now, just thinning it down. I want this. I was thinking about doing this one of two ways. I was either going to do some dry brushing, like try and do it as subtle as I could, or I was going to thin it down and do a super thin wash and just dab it around here and there. Honestly, I'm still sort of even though I'm actually at the point where I've got paint on my brush now, I'm still thinking, I don't know which way to do this. Okay, where's that picture of leather that I had? I had a photo of some leather straps that were similar. Okay, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to thin this down loads. So I've put some flow enhancer in just to have it keep the quality of paint be a little bit, so it doesn't split the way it sometimes does when it's just water. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to chuck the brush in there to thin it, to get all the stuff off that brush. Now, are they dry? They are dry enough. So where do I start from? Let's see. I can probably start round the back. So I'll use that hole where the sword uses the magnet to click in. I'll probably use that as a starting point. Go round. Oh, this is so difficult. Can I zoom this out a bit? Camera 2. No, it is zoomed out already. Okay, in that case, let me lift that up a bit higher. Sorry for the wobble, just so it's a little bit easier to show you. Start off at that point and we'll go around this way and then come back around to the front. What I'm going to do, I don't know if this is going to work. What I'm going to do is get some water. Could be flow enhancer. I'll use water. Which brush do I want to use? This brush will be fine. I'll do it all with one brush. Right, so let me move this in. So we've got the thin down paint there. So I'm going to get some water on the brush. Not too much, but I want it to be wet. I'll try and keep this in shot for you. And just on the front edge, I'm not going down the sides or anything. I'm going to paint water. In fact, you know what? No, that's bubbling up. Not bubbling up. Beading the way water does sometimes. So I'm going to use flow enhancer instead, which will make it shiny, but it doesn't matter because we're doing varnish on it anyway. Right. So where are we? Oh my god! I've got to try and not knock these bottles over. This is so difficult. And I just touched the leather butts, which are apparently not dry. Okay, so flow enhancer, which is thankfully not beading now because I'm sure it's got soap in it or something, because it smells of liquid bubble mixture. You know, when you were a kid and you used to get bubbles, that's what the flow enhancer, I'm sure that's what they're selling me. Pay all this money on it and they're just like, yeah, just give them some bubble liquid mixture. So basically I painted a load of water or a load of flow enhancer, and I am then going in and just randomly going dab 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 dab, bit of, you know, stroking here and there, dabbing here and there, just chucking some colour on it. And it's quite subtle, and it's so let's get rid of the colour, get some more flow enhancer. Sorry, doing all of this off the camera. Where's the light? There you go. So I'm just making the top side of it wet, getting some of this reddy brown colour, dabbing a lot of it off. That's probably too much, to be honest. Yep, way too much. Brushing most of that off, and where's the shine? There you go. And then taking the colour, dab 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 dab, random sort of messy bits here and there. Sometimes a bit stronger on one side, a bit stronger on the other. Sometimes you're dabbing random patterns, sometimes you're sort of doing little random strokes. It's just making it not look like you're just painting a colour all in one place. I'm just sort of quickly putting some of this flow enhancer down to that hole where we started, and then I'll come back and we'll carry on. Right, where did I do it up to? Up to about there. Oh, too much. Do that each time. Dab dab dab. Now it's bubbling up a bit, which is part of the reason why I'm convinced this stuff is soap, apart from the fact that it just smells like soap. It does bubble quite a bit when you've got some on a particular type of brush and you're being a bit random with how you're dabbing and brushing. You end up getting hundreds of little tiny bubbles. And I'm like, they are just selling me soap liquid. But it works, and if that's what does the job, then that's what does the job. That's why I also think some of my early layers, until one of my patrons, I can't remember whether it was Ben Solis or someone else, forgive me for not remembering who you were, told me, well, maybe the reason why all your heads are looking shiny while you paint them, even though it doesn't matter in the end because they get varnish, but it was making it sort of hard to tell how the colours were doing while I was doing it. I had to use, judgment and experience and all that sort of kind of thing, because they would go really shiny. And someone said, well, maybe it's because you're using all flow enhancer and no water. And I had to go, and they were right. And I think that's because it's essentially bubble liquid. Okay, so we've gone all around that. Probably made no difference to you on camera. Oh, hang on. Missed a couple of bits. And get rid of all of that. So, front of these bits. I'm not going to do the sides or the back because I actually want them to be darker, and that works quite well if they are darker because it acts like fake shadow and it helps with the effect of these being leather belts, and also the fact that they are sculpted quite thick and they are actually thicker than they need to be. And so I don't want to have to or anything that can help, what am I trying to say, remove the effect that these are big chunky blocks of sculpted plastic by leaving the sides darker and not doing any of this leathery highlight stuff on them. The sides will just sort of shadow into the background and your eye will think that they are shadow instead of big chunky blocks. Okay, so I've done that colour. That'll do for that. So let me just rinse this brush before I forget. And then we're going to get another lighter colour. I think I might use that flat earth. That looks like a good one. And I'm going to, I think, dry brush this bit. Now, technically that might not work as well because the the strap is still wet, but I think it'll work well enough because it'll still mix in. It'll just be slightly different and won't be exactly as going onto a dry surface, but it'll still do the same thing. So I could mix into that, but I actually like this colour as it is for what I need it to be. So I'm just going to give this another shake. Shaky, shaky, shaky. Let's just blob it in there, it'll be fine. Blob, blob, and that's quite thick, which is quite good. So I've just done a couple of blobs in there. I'm not going to thin this one down, so I'm just going to take some of this on the, let's bring all of this in, let's get all the water out of the way. So a couple of blobs in there, so I've just got some, dab some off. I'm going to rub a lot of it off onto the tissue paper. Now let me hold him by the arm and come back here. How am I going to do this? Let's see. So there's not much on the brush, and I'm just randomly either doing bits along the sort of, the grain of the brush, maybe doing some bits on the edges to make it look like worn leather on the edge. Just random bits to get random bits of colour, all with the thing in mind of, okay, well, I'm trying to make it look like an old leather belt here. And the thing is, if you're ever doing anything and you think, oh, I don't really know what that would look like, well, that's fine. You don't have to remember everything. Just go onto Google, type in brown leather belt, look at all the pictures, and you go, oh, okay, so it does that, and then it wears out like that on the edges, and then the colour does that, and you can, wherever it is you're trying to paint, there will be pictures of it somewhere. That's all you got to do. And I don't do everything from memory. If I'm doing something, I will get a load of pictures and go, oh, okay, so to get that effect I need to do this. I mean, I might be good, but I do not know everything. I definitely don't know everything. So yeah, I'll look up pictures of leather belts, and I'll look up pictures of whatever it is I'm doing, whether it's I'm doing hair or skin or stuff. I'll look up pictures beforehand, or I'll have them up while I'm working. In a lot of cases you end up if it's sort of something that you do multiple times, you'll end up with like a base knowledge of, okay, well, if I'm doing leather and I can do these colours and it works in a certain way, and that's great. And you don't have to, you know, look things up because it's not specifically new anymore, because you've done it a few times and you sort of remember how to do it, and that works well. It makes it a little bit easier once you know, and that happens with skin and hair and all sorts of things. You remember how you did them, so you remember how to do them next time. Sorry, I'm painting all of this off camera. I'm so sorry. I get into my own little world and I'm painting and I'm talking, and then I've just realised, oh my god, I'm holding this sort of in a place that works for me, but is not showing you anything. I've just been going around all of this, just randomly painting bits of these colours on. It probably won't show on here at all, but I can see it, and it just makes it look a little bit more like real leather as opposed to just a flat painted something. I'm just, in some places I'm like bits like here, I'm doing just a bit of weathering on the edges. In other bits I'm just doing random bits in the middle. Ooh, side ones. Knew I was forgetting something. Okay, I think I'm going to do one more layer. What did I not do? I didn't do mahogany, did I? Let's have a look at that. What does that look like? No, it's not really the sort of leathery, ready, chocolatey colour. Have I got any of this chocolate old MP paint left? I don't know if I have. Let me see. Ooh, that's quite dry. Okay, that's sort of dead. Here's another one. Oh, this has got some left in it. Okay, so I've got an MP chocolate brown here, good old chocolate brown that we used to use all the time, and it is not fully dried up yet, so I'm going to take some of this, if I can get the lid off, and eventually I will find a match for that. I just have not done it yet. All the other stuff I've been doing, I've found matches for some of the colours, but just not for that yet. There's a few that I haven't, or some that I'm still unsure about. But what I'm going to do, I'll just take a bit of that. I'll just take it off the lid. That's fine, off the bottom of the lid. Splodge it down there, just to get some on the palette. Right, you go away, you go away. Let's wipe off most of that. Now, let's see. Try and hold this in a way that I can do it. Massive delay on my screen, so if things are going a bit jerky and slow motion and then speed it up, sorry, don't know why, my computer's being weird. I'll restart it before the next one, but I'm not going to restart it now because we're busy. So I'm just using the chocolate brown and doing some edge weathering and random dabs here and there, just to add a slightly more, little bit too much, a slightly more brown look to it, which is, I know everything is brown and we've been painting with all brown colours, but this has such a rich chocolatey look to it, and it's quite often exactly what I want. Now there's a bit there where I put a little bit too much on, so I'm just dipping back into the black brown that we had on the palette still, and just softening it back, pushing it back a little bit. Okay, that's quite good. So I'm going to take some while I'm on the front. Oh no, I did those. Did I do those? No, I'll do them again. There you go. In fact, I will do the side pieces while I'm at it. Now, you have to remember we started off doing this and we were saying, you know what, we could leave this as it is and it'd be fine. And that is absolutely true. We could have left it as the plain black brown or umber colour, would have totally worked because it just looked like a dark leather strap, but just doing stuff like this gives it a little bit more life and just makes it not quite so uni-colour. And even if what you're doing is so subtle and you think, you know what, I'm the only person who's going to see this, that's often fine, because other people look at it, they might not notice all the work you've done on a thing. I hope I was on camera there. They might not notice, you know, you've spent like 3 hours painting a little tiny thing and you think, no one's going to see this, why am I even doing that? A lot of the time you will be doing work that you don't need to. It just is the case. I know I do plenty of work and I'm thinking, I could probably do that much more simply, and I probably didn't need to do all of that work. I'm probably making work for myself. I should make this much better. And you will do some of that. But in amongst all of that, you will also do things that make something that you're painting, wherever it is, more alive. And people will look at it, and even if they don't know what you've done, the thing that you're painting, the thing that they're looking at, it will just be more alive to them, and that's what we want. Now, as always, I can't tell if you can see any of that, but it's just not so flat now. And what I might do, I'm probably going to regret this, is go around some of the edges with that lighter orangey colour. What was that called? It was one of the ones that I was using. Hull red? No. I mean, it might have been. I can't remember what I did. Anyway, that colour that I've got there. I'll take some of that and just do some on some of the edges, not all of them. Just random here and there. And it doesn't even need to be all the way around, but I just wanted to do some of it. Just adding a bit to the edges. I mean, part of me is tempted to get an even lighter colour. Oh, do I do this or not? I don't know. What have I got? So I've got a light brown here. Let me chuck the... Whoop! Let's try that again. Let me chuck the paint brush in the thing. So I've got this one that's called light brown. Looks like more of a sand colour compared to the other ones that I've used. Let's blob some of that down there and let me show you that. Put the lid on first. So that is that colour there. It's almost yellow ochre, but it's just more of a sandy colour. Now I don't want to overdo this. I want to be careful here. I'll take some of that, rub off most of it, and let me carefully just do some of the edges. I mean, this is pretty much dry brushing now, to the point where my brush is just brushing off bits of hairs and dust that have come off the kitchen roll, but honestly that's fine. I'll brush off. So I'm just doing bits on the edges. Well, it really is just hairs and dust off the brush here. And I'm just taking right on the edges, right on the corners, dry brushing the slightest hint of like a worn out, scratchy edge to it, but not everywhere. You look at leather belts, they will have bits that are still dark, they will have bits that are a bit crackled and a bit broken, and it's that mixture that I'm going for. And I'm just doing around one edge of the belt first, so I know where I've done, and then I'll turn it around and do the other edge. Oh, I'll tell you what, this thing does not give you hand cramp when you're holding it in certain positions for ages. I had the same thing with Clint Eastwood when I was doing that. Little tiny heads on sticks are definitely easier. Okay, so there's some worn out edges on these side ones. Now I've got to say, this addition of this sandy colour, showing some worn out bits on the edges and on the bent bits where it's bent around a buckle, it really adds to it. See, I nearly didn't do this. Oh, I like that a lot. Okay, where was I up to? I'd done that. I've forgotten where I got to. Okay. So I'm just making my way around, doing the edges, but leaving some bits, you know, original colour, and then doing some scratchy sandy bits on other bits. I'm just quickly going around it, with a very dry brush here, but it's still got a little bit of colour on. Just been a bit more rough around the edges, but painting the other way. Instead of painting across the edges, I'm now painting along with the edges, but just randomly scrubbing on a bit of drier stuff at the very end. It's one of those things that you can't really explain to people how to do until you do it, because I didn't know I was going to do this, and just then I was painting and all of a sudden I realised I'm doing a different thing, and my brain's gone, Darren, you need to do this, except instead of telling me what to do, I just end up doing it, and then I'm like, oh right, I'm doing a thing now. Like, I'll start doing a thing without realising that I'm actually doing the thing. It's quite efficient when you think about it. Okay, so probably won't show, and it's going to go a little bit darker again when it dries fully, but we've taken, excuse me, all of those colours, that colour and that colour and that colour and that colour, and we've done on the big leather strap, the little leather straps and the side straps, bit of random dabbing on a wet surface so it would bleed in a little bit and smoothen out, a little bit extra on top of that, bit more on top of that, some stuff around the edges and some more stuff around the edges, and that just gives it a little bit more realism and less as if it is a, you know, flat piece of plastic. Let's get that out of the way. So that'll do for part 5. Those belts are done now. Apart from me repainting around those red edges, which there's nothing to teach there, I'm literally painting a flat colour on those. So I will probably do that off camera. I might do it off camera. Apart from that, the armour, the body part of the upper torso piece is done. Now I've still got to do, see those bracelets? I've got to chisel those off, cut them off, Dremel them off, do whatever I need to do, and then re-sculpt new ones with milliput and make some leather full arm bracelets. Because the client wanted it to be different. He wanted it to be a bit more like how it was in the film, although the film version actually had so leather around the forearm, but down here there was a gap, and that was tied with laces between the two pieces. Now the client doesn't want the laces, but he wants it to be like a solid leather piece, as if almost as if it's like sprung leather. So there'll be a gap down the middle, and then one solid piece going all the way around back to there. And we're going to sculpt that on top of those bits that we carve off. We will do that on camera because that's potentially interesting and something that potentially I can mess up for your entertainment, because it's not something that I do all the time. So anything new and where I'm going, I don't know if how I'm going to do that, it's probably always worth filming, because then you can go, ha, he got it wrong. And that's part of the fun, because it shows how you can do something, not really know how you're going to do it, maybe do it right, maybe do it wrong, maybe need to fix it and make it better. Part of doing it. So we will do that on camera. Might do that on camera next. Not sure. I've got to cut those off, but I might jump to another part. Honestly, I'm making this up as I go. This series is a sort of let's just do bits of everything type thing, so it's not particularly planned very well. But we'll do something. In part, was this 5? I'm so rubbish. Yes, this was part 5. So we'll do something else in part 6, but for the main painting of the main torso bit, apart from me neatening up these red or dark red edges, which I'll do off camera because it's literally just me getting that colour and going around the edges, making sure everything is neat. You don't need to see that. Apart from that, the main body is done. And we can take the head, which has had a slight repaint on the face just to make it look a little bit less artificial, and had the helmet repainted, and he's got to have a big feather thing, comes out the top like that. Don't know how that's supposed to stay in place, it just keeps turning around. I don't want to glue it in because I think it's got to go back in the box, so that might be up to the client to do, but there you go. So ignore that turning around. Quarter scale Alexander the Great. All this has been repainted, all the metal has been repainted, it's been aged, same as all the metal around here. I bent these cheek pieces in, I heated up the plastic and bent them in slightly and then cooled it down because they looked a bit rubbish, and they look much better now. So there you go. Actually looks a bit better further away because he's less under the bright light. That's quite cool. So imagine that size, riding a horse, and the horse is up with one leg in the air. Very cool. So that, I can just put these back away so I don't drop them, because that would be just my luck. Spend ages on something and then drop it. I actually have done that before. I spent, oh, what was it? I might have been sculpting Dr. McCoy. Remember those Star Trek heads that I sculpted a while back, a few years ago? Kirk, Spock and McCoy. I think when I was sculpting McCoy, I'm very slow at sculpting, and this is why I had to turn down future commissions from the guy who had me do those, because I said, look, you know what, I really want to do all of these for you, but I'm just not fast enough. You would be waiting forever, and it would be too much stress for me, and I wouldn't be able to earn an income, and you wouldn't, everything would be wrong. So I concentrated on my painting, told him to go find another sculptor, and he has now, and QMX are releasing all the Star Trek figures. That's what I would have ended up doing, but I had to turn that gig down because I'm not fast enough at sculpting. Also, I needed more practice because the heads that I did, some of them were great. I'd say 1.5 of them were great, 1.5 of them were a bit wonky. The Kirk one was very uneven, I thought. Like one side of the face wasn't the same proportion as the other. Like with the sculpting program on a computer, you can do a line down the middle, sculpt on one side, and both sides come out, and so it comes out perfectly symmetrical. When you're sculpting with a block of wax and you're dropping wax onto it, you've got to be able to do it. And I was still practicing at that when I was doing it. So there were many reasons why it was probably best for me to drop out. But when I was doing, I think it was McCoy, I spent something like a week, like 6 or 7 days, trying to sculpt this part of the nose. Just couldn't get the nostrils right. I spent about 4 days sculpting one nostril. Did it all, got it, eventually had it right. The thing jumped out of my hand, cracked onto the desk, nose came off. You've never heard so much swearing in your life. So you do have to be careful when you're doing things. So I'm going to go. Thanks for sticking around, guys, and we will see you. We will see you. We will see each other. I will see you. You will see me. One of those is true. In part 6, we'll do something else. We will either sculpt the leather brace things, the forearm guards, or we'll pick another part of the statue and do something else. But that'll be next. So, good to see you. Have a good day, have a good week, have a good weekend, wherever you are when you're watching this, and be nice to yourselves, be nice to someone else, and I'll see you soon. Yeah, that's it. Take care. Bye.